fatal heart impacts, past painful scars. In fact, I blast tasteful bars and pass. I back up my actions, fact don't ask, grab reactions, jacked attack with every word, then act with class as they hear me snap. I got nothing to lose, cause I fought and felt the bruise. Now I'm not the one confused, call the shots and they produce. I ain't lost, I'm finally loose. Pick a new silver excuse, I need the views to boost me to a new abuse of being used. Everybody wants a piece now, y'all can rest in peace now. You're dead to me, so peace out. Remember, you're discreet out. Get ready for defeat now.
Alrighty. Hello everybody. This is Kiru's show here. And now, whenever we last left off with this series, we had Izuku Midoriya, or Izuku Carter. And what has currently been going on? Now, because of his success protecting Sayako and Telly, Mr. Yaoyorozu hired Midoriya to train his daughter. And it has been almost about a month and a half since this training has began. Now, Momo has made great strides physically with improving, along with utilizing her quirk in combat. This being where Midoriya does see her excel and actually improve drastically. She's only ever used basic weapons. She's never considered firearms or even grenades. So, with Midoriya now teaching her this avenue of weaponry, and certain other things that are a bit more complex or dangerous to use, she does seem to be more capable. Especially with something Midoriya has actually seen her do once. Midoriya watching her actually go to create a knife in her hand, and the knife shoots outward. And actually does fly throughout the room and hit the wall. Now, Midoriya did see that, and he did think that that was quite interesting. So, depending on how fast she makes the object, it can fly, or it will shoot out at certain speeds. Interesting. Midoriya telling Momo to at least try and test this theory out, and even her watching it happen, and being confused. She knows that she can rapidly create material, but she often usually slows it down because she doesn't like it whenever it flies outward. Usually these materials are heavier, or more sturdy, so they don't fly as far. However, the smaller the projectile, the more force it does have behind it flying. And Midoriya did find this to be quite fascinating. So, she has a long distance attack now. Interesting. And then there is short distance and medium range, to which she does have covered. Now, we do have in the gym one day. The day right before Momo is supposed to be going to the recommendations, and do tests that way. Now, we have Midoriya, who actually would be in the gym racking weight and, well, bench pressing it. Now, he has just started a new set, and this would be whenever Momo does actually walk in and go straight up to him. Midoriya actually looking up and seeing her, making eye contact with her and telling her that she might want to take a step backwards, as he would put the weight on the rack and then go to stand up, before turning around. Her going to state that she got an interesting phone call from her father today. Interesting, Miss Yaoyorozu. What does this phone call pertain? Well, apparently I'm not going through the recommendation anymore. Do you have any idea why? Yes, I do. Me and your father have been talking. And, well, if you're not going to go into the underworld like he wants, or you persistently don't want to do, then you will have no access to certain resources. However, you will make it to UA. I'm aware of that. I'm certain of it. You really think I can? Miss Yayarozu, your weapon selection for your quirk is quite lacking. In fact, if I had your quirk, I would probably already be halfway to the high table. If not, already there. You're a walking armory. The only downside is you need to eat a lot of calories. Now listen to me. Midoriya says actually getting up and putting a hand on her shoulder, telling her that she simply lacks the confidence in her own abilities. She's restraining herself. She's scared of her ability, is that correct? Now, Momo doesn't like this. Midoriya is basically reading her like a book. And she actually does go to wave his hand off of her shoulder, stating that, of course, she's scared of her ability. As far as she's aware, she can create nuclear warheads and atomize cities. So it's nice to have restraints on. Midoriya informing her that her restraints are going to hold her back, and that her quirk, she needs to utilize it to the best of her capabilities. Since if she can't use her full power, how is she going to expect to be a pro? Now, she does understand the situation. And later into that day, she does start her own specialized training to try and understand more about weapon selection. Now, with that being said, the next day Midoriya does actually go to get dressed, and Momo does see him leaving the manor. Confused and ask him what he is doing. Midoriya telling her Mr. Yaoyorozu called him and told him to go to a specialized location. And he is simply following instructions. He will be back later. Now, in reality, Midoriya is going to the recommendation. Once he does get there, he does see everybody. And he does participate in the test. Now, Midoriya, he is physically leagues above Momo. However, with the fact that he's still slower, or at least under speed to, let's say, Todoroki or the Wind Guy, I want to say that out of all the candidates, Midoriya would place third in that race portion, but the intelligence portion, Midoriya would place the highest, along with certain other things. He is anything to do with physically above average, or at least above or around somebody with a strength and speed quirk. A little bit under that. If a quirk is not made for a category, Midoriya is above that person. And if it isn't movement based like Todoroki's, how he can utilize it, Midoriya is at least behind those people. Now, Midoriya, he will be selected by UA, especially for his extraordinary abilities. Now, he would then head back to the Yaoyorozu estates. And whenever he does actually drive back onto the estate, he does hear cannon fire. Then what he does, he throws his car into gear, and almost barrels to the gates as he goes to drive in, making his way to the location as he actually does pull up on Momo, firing anti-tank cannons. Now, the moment that Midoriya actually does see her, he's actually pretty impressed, jumping out of the car as Momo does actually go to fire off another cannon. And she does so. Now, she does then actually look at Midoriya, who she didn't even hear pull up. Her taking off the protective earpieces, and actually asking him what he's doing here. Him explaining that he just got back and is impressed. He could hear her all the way from the main gates. Now, she actually does instruct, or at least inform Midoriya, that she has been working on this, and that the shells themselves are a bit tricky to make. They seem to require a little bit more than she's used to. And actually, she is starting to get a bit fatigued by it. Now, Midoriya does instruct her that she doesn't always have to work off of blueprints she has seen. Create a blueprint in her head, and think of it like that. Midoriya instructing her to make a shell half the size, to which she does do. Now, Midoriya then does ask her if she does still have enough to make a smaller cannon. Her saying yes, yes she does. Now, Midoriya then does inform her to try. Now, the cannon barrel actually does come popping out of her stomach. And Midoriya does actually see that. Still, well, weirded out by her quirk, as the thing does eventually fall and hit the ground right in front of her. Her then loading it up and putting on protective earmuffs before going to hand a pair to Midoriya. Now, she then does fire off this one, and the size or damage is at least about halved. Now, Midoriya then does inform her that she is going to do well during the entrance exam if she's able to perform like this, and how she needs to be prepared for whatever comes at her. Now, he then does tell her that he will meet her at UA, to which she does not understand. Now, with that being said, 2 weeks does pass, and Momo does get more and more creative in design with her quirk. Her even actually taking down notes and compiling data of certain things she can put together. Now, with all of that, she does go to UA, take the test, and pass, along with her going into the actual combat portion, to which people are confused by, watching this girl create a tiny cannon. Now, this tiny artillery setup, Momo actually does have. She's able to at least pick it up and move it around. She created wheels on it, along with actually a way to pick it up, so as to lean forwards the cannon barrel and move it. Now, anytime she can, she actually does create weapons. People watching this girl shoot projectile knives from her arms, along with actually fire a tank missile or small anti-tank missiles through a large row of robots. Her even creating grenades and throwing them off in those directions. Now, UA is quite intrigued by this girl's performance. From what she's doing, she has a tactical setup. Everything she's doing, she's at least racking up multiple points. She's aiming at targets that have targets behind them. And she's even going for blast damage, or at least large groups clustered together. Now, this is quite interesting. UA is observing all of these people, and roughly about 7 or 8 of them do seem to be interesting candidates for the hero course. They all have similar strategies, and their quirks vary. It's interesting as well. Now, with that being said, sorry. This would be whenever the entrance exam test is over. The 0-pointer would arrive, and people would run away. Now, with that being said, this would be where Momo does actually go to leave. And as she does go to call Midoriya and inform her of how the test went. The moment she does actually go to call him, Midoriya, he actually does have his phone ring. And Momo does actually go to turn around and see Midoriya just leaning up against the wall. Ask her exactly how did her test go. What the? My test went okay. I just followed the strategy I laid out. That's perfect. How many how many points did you get? That part varies. I'm not exactly too sure. I was too into the battle. Well, that's not all bad. But you destroyed a lot, didn't you? Yes, I did. Good. Now, I can only assume that after using your quirk like that, you're hungry, correct? Yeah, I could eat. Good. Midoriya taking her to a place to eat. Now, with that being said, after they do go to this place to eat, they do head back to the manor. And this would be whenever 1 week would pass. Momo keeps up on her training, and the letter for UA is actually delivered to her. Now, along with that, Midoriya himself also does get a letter. And this would be whenever Momo would learn that Midoriya used her recommendation spot. And she does get a bit angry at this, talking about how she could have just gone through the recommendations and be done with it. And how Midoriya basically's got a free spot in a hero school. Why is he even going there? To which he does inform her that it doesn't really matter. He's quirkless, remember? Her forgetting that subject a lot. And Midoriya explaining to her that by taking the recommendations, he has a guaranteed spot in the school. Meanwhile, Momo, she actually does have to fight and get some combat experience. Yes, their little sparring sessions do provide certain learning. However, that was an actual battlefield. So, keep this in mind. And the battles from now on might just get harder and harder. Especially if he's going to be physically training her. Once he believes that she is ready, he is leaving. And Mr. Yaoyorozu will pay him generously. Now, with that, there is the first day of UA, where everyone is actually, well, at the class. And our teacher of the year, since Aizawa is gone, I want to say would either be All Might or Nezu. Just because I think it would be good. All Might is... Actually, no, with All Might's time, that wouldn't be too good. Actually, let's say the teacher is either Midnight or, well... Yeah, Midnight, because I'd say President Mike would just be way too loud. Now, Midnight does inform the students about what they will all be going through. And how they will be going to the... Well... What is that? That speech thing in the gym. They'll be going to that, and then they'll be going through their own test to see where everyone is physically. Now, Midoriya does use a fake name. And I do want to say that that fake name, I don't want to just say it's John Wick. It'd be something like, I don't know. Anyways, just know it's not his real name. Now, everybody is actually surprised by all this. And we actually do have in the locker room, where, after the speech and everything in the gym, Class 1A did lead to the actual, well, quirk assessment test. Now, everyone was getting changed, and people did actually look at Midoriya. However, he did not have his tattoos visible. He contacted somebody who can give him at least a fake layer of skin, or at least the person that they use for stealth missions, or even infiltration missions. They can make fake masks, and actually mold your skin like clay. So, they did that to Midoriya, molding his skin a certain way so as to not arouse suspicion. Now, Midoriya, he actually is getting changed. And he is talking with a few people in the locker room. Some people want to know how Midoriya got so muscular. Other people are curious of his training regimen. And then he actually just look around the locker room, wondering if anyone else here even knows what's really happening, who he really even is. Now, Midoriya actually does see a few guys who were staring at him, and even Bakugo is there. As Midoriya, he would watch Bakugo throw a bit of a hissy fit, talking about how he can't believe that he placed this place in the entrance exam, how he should have placed higher. Now, with all of that, everybody does walk out after getting changed, and there is the ball throw. Now, with this, the quirk assessment test is underway. Midoriya comes second in the speed test, and he does place at least third or fourth in all these tests, competing against people using their quirks and who do at least have abilities who help them in these categories. Overall, Midoriya does place around, I would say, third to about fourth overall. Him placing right behind Bakugo, Todoroki, and I would say Ida. As a lot of other people are placed differently. Now, with that out of the way, nobody is expelled from UA. And I do believe that this would be a good point to leave off of. Now, I do hope you all enjoyed. Have an amazing night. Catch you guys in the next part.